Have you visited Antarctica? Have you heard of Robert Scott? You probably haven't done either of those things. But long before you were born, Robert Scott was exploring Antarctica. Scott was born in 1868 in Devonport, England. While he was at school, he dreamed of joining the Navy and travelling around the world to exciting places. Years later, at the age of 31, he was working in the Royal Navy when he applied for a new job. He got the job, and he became the leader of an expedition to Antarctica. Scott's journey began in Dundee, Scotland, on his ship, Discovery. The ship was very strong, to protect it from the snow and sea ice of Antarctica. A team of 50 sailors, scientists, and explorers travelled to Antarctica with Scott. They were hoping for adventure, and they planned to investigate the land, the plants, and the wildlife of the frozen continent. The journey south took 5 months. While they were sailing, they stopped in South Africa and New Zealand, and finally arrived at their destination on the 8th of February, 1902. They lived on Discovery while they were setting up a base camp for their supplies. The weather was cold and very windy, and as they were building the camp, their ship became frozen. During that time, the men didn't often leave the ship. But when the sun was shining, they explored and studied the Antarctic environment. In November 1902, some of the men left Discovery and tried to walk to the South Pole. They travelled 16 kilometres per day. But before they reached the South Pole, they gave up and returned to their ship. It was a difficult journey, but the men survived. While they were recovering, another ship arrived from the UK to rescue them. Together, the men from both ships broke the ice around Discovery. And in 1904, they all returned to London, where Scott was a hero. Have you got a dream or an ambition? Something you have always wanted to do? Scott wanted to be the first person to reach the South Pole. He later returned to Antarctica and set out, but while he was still walking through the ice and snow, a Norwegian explorer got there before him. Roald Amundsen reached the South Pole in December 1911. But Scott didn't arrive until January 1912. Unfortunately, Scott didn't survive his return journey, and he died in the Antarctic snow. Robert Scott was a brave man and a great explorer. He lived for adventure and loved his job. He became famous for his amazing life of discovery.